Basketball is a well-known sport around the world. Lots of people enjoy watching their idols play, and many also play the game themselves. If you have played or watched basketball, which I would assume you have, you know that shooting is a big part of the game. It's one of the main ways players score, and it's certainly the most effective. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing and explaining the biomechanics of shooting. But before we get into the biomechanics of a basketball shot, we need to understand the basics of shooting a basketball. Shooting a basketball can be broken down into three main stages or steps. This position is the first stage, this is the second, and this is the last stage. Note that this doesn't mean that every player has to shoot by stopping at these stages. No. Some players do stop at these positions for a very brief amount of time, but some also don't. But when it comes to analyzing a shot, all three stages are crucial and important. A basketball shot uses the sagittal plane, which divides the body into right and left parts. This means that the motion of shooting a basketball is mostly limited to forward and backward movements. Of course, every shot starts from this position, which can also be called our shot pocket. Our shot pocket lets us load for a shot using our legs, which act as sort of a support pillar to balance our body before we shoot the ball. Now, the keyword here is balance. To be able to shoot the best shot, you need your legs to be very balanced. If your stance isn't balanced, then your body might not be very well supported, and you'll end up putting up a bad shot. And yes, obviously you need to have a good and solid stance. Here, as you can see, my legs form a 120-degree angle, more or less, and they're also aligned with my shoulders. This is done not only to support my body, but also to get a more powerful and high-arcing shot. Though of course, different players have different strengths, and for players that are taller or have better arm strength than others, they might not need to get too low with their stance. But how exactly does a good stance affect a shot? Well, to understand this, we need to understand the muscles that we're using during these movements. In this particular motion, a lot of the muscles we're using are located on our hip and thighs. When we bend our knee to get into our stance, we're using our hamstring, the muscle located at the back of our thighs. We're also hyperextending our gluteus maximus to move our thighs backward. We also use the muscles located on our calf, our soleus and gastrocnemius muscles, right as we're about to lift off. Joints also play a big role in shooting a good basketball shot. Of course, here it's pretty obvious that the main joint we're using is our knee joint, or well, the joint that's on our knees. We're also using our hip joint as we're loading and shooting the basketball. Then we'll get into this position, which is basically our shot ready position. This allows us to maintain control of the ball, which will be incredibly helpful during in-game situations where a defender is constantly trying to give you pressure and steal or deflect the ball. Here, you can see that as I'm about to shoot the ball, my arm form a 60 to 75 degree angle. In this current state, we're using our triceps to extend our elbow and our biceps to aim at the hoop. We're also using our trapezius muscle, the muscle located on our collarbone, and our deltoid muscle, the muscle located on our shoulder joint. These two muscles are used to raise our arm and rotate our shoulders to shoot and help us aim better. In addition to that, we also use our forearm muscle to move our wrist and control our fingers, which will be very crucial in releasing the ball. Finally, we get to our release point, which is obviously the step where we release the ball. All of the muscles that I mentioned before are being used here to create a powerful, controlled, and high-arcing shot. The arc of the ball is really important as it can make your shot more smooth. It's ideal to have a shot arc that's parabolic because you would have a higher chance of making the shot. But in this final stage, the most crucial part of our arm that we use is this part. Aside from the arc, our wrist joint and forearm muscle is what makes shots like these look and feel so smooth. Our forearm muscle control our fingers, which we use to make the ball spin. It's crucial to flick our index and middle finger as well as our wrist to make the ball spin. This will increase the chance of the ball going in and, well, looking cool. A common mistake that a lot of people experience is having these fingers touch the ball last instead of these two fingers. Of course, either way the ball will spin, but it won't spin the same way as it would if you end your shot with these two fingers, thus decreasing the chance of it going in. There are many different benefits that you could get from playing basketball. Not only can basketball benefit your health, but it could also benefit you mentally. Obviously, basketball can train your muscle, endurance, and overall stamina. Shooting can train your lower body muscles like your hip, thighs, and calf. Of course, it also trains your upper body muscles like the muscles on your arms, shoulders, and back. It also trains certain joints in your body such as your wrist joint, hip joint, and knee joint. Apart from that, it could also train your balance and coordination, as it's one of the most important aspects of the game, especially when it comes to shooting. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that it can also help you burn down calories. But apart from your health, basketball can also train your concentration and focus. In shooting, focus and concentration is especially important, because without it, you'd have a hard time making buckets. Generally, concentration is just really important in the game of basketball and also other sports.